Alright, I'd like to try to revisit the issue from my previous video where in my JavaScript we created a variable called ext for extension, and we set that to .mp3 in double quotes, so it's a string, it's set to a string. And then we created another variable called agent, and we used this navigator.userAgent navigator.userAgent.toLowerCase function and set whatever the value of that was to agent. Well, what I didn't do before was I didn't create an alert pop-up that would give us that information of agent. Well, let me show you exactly what this means before I go any further in the code. Opera or any other browser, you should be able to go to About, whether it's about Firefox, about Opera, about Chrome, about Internet Explorer. And when you click on it, it's telling you about the browser. So for this particular browser, it's Opera 41.0, and the version information is right here, 41.0.2353.56. It says it's up to date, tells you what your operating system is, and you've got further browser identification down here, this big long string of stuff. Mozilla 5.0, Windows NT 6.1, Apple WebKit 53736, blah 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 blah. Okay? Now, you see Mozilla, you see Apple WebKit, you see Chrome, you see Safari, and you see OPR. You don't see Opera. Now, in the video that I did before, I had used, well, this is Adam Curry's code, but he created this if condition that was looking for the string Firefox or the string, or the string Opera, okay? And if it found the string Firefox or if it found the string Opera, it was going to set the value to ext to .ogg instead of .mp3, the string. Then when it went down here to the function init audio player to initialize the audio player, we would have audio equals new audio, and then we would set the audio.source to my box, or not my box, my folder called audio, and then to my mp3 or my ogg file that the name of the song was For You plus ext, the value of that, which would be either mp3, which was the default, or if we were dealing with Opera or Firefox, it was going to change this to ogg. So this was telling, this code was telling a particular browser where to grab the audio source, the For You mp3 or For You ogg. Well, when I ran this, Opera was not spitting out the ogg when we did not alert agent, but when we did this, I'm sorry, not there either. Right here, after we ran this init audio player, then we checked what the extension was. And when we ran Opera, it was telling us it was mp3. I was thinking, well, why is it mp3 when I specifically said if there was Opera, it should be ogg, not mp3. Alright, so watch what happens. It's looking for Opera in this string, and I've already showed you that it doesn't actually say Opera. It says OPR. And so here's Opera. We're in Opera. We have example.html page open in here. I'm going to refresh the page. Now here's all that information we get. Let me go back to the JavaScript. All this information spit out in this pop-up, in this alert box, is because of this. var agent equals navigator.userAgent to lowercase. So it's using navigator.userAgent. It's putting it into the variable agent, and then here's where the pop-up actually spits it out. So it's not taking it from the pop-up, it's taking it from the internal information of the browser itself. The pop-up is just spitting it out. And I just showed you another way to find that is to go to the browser directly and go about Opera. Well, the thing of it is if you've created a web page and you don't know, somebody 100 miles away from you might open it up on the internet, you don't know what the heck browser they're using. So when you do something like this, you're able to control, if they have a certain type of browser, what you want their browser to do. And in this little snippet, the only thing it's really doing is requesting that if it's a certain browser, we want you to pull a certain audio file. Now, this is showing you what Opera's web browser is all about. Click OK. Here, it's showing you that in this after it does this part and it checks what the value of ext is currently given the value of MP3, which is the default. Way up here, we created it as a default of MP3, which basically means that it did not find the string Opera in the Opera browser information. So therefore, it didn't change the value of ext to OGG. It kept it to the original MP3. If I wanted to make this work the way I thought it was going to work in the previous video, I would use this alert agent to actually really understand what this was going to be. And so the first time that it tells me what to look for, I'm not looking for Opera, I'm looking for OPR. So instead of saying Opera spelled like that, because I'm looking at what this user agent, Navigator user agent information is telling me Opera has in it, I'm going to change my if condition. So it's going to look for Firefox or OPR, and if it sees OPR in all of this stuff, then it's going to change the value of ext to OGG. So that at that point, when it changes the value to OGG, then when it initializes the audio player and it creates the new audio object, and then it wants to know what the source, the audio source is going to be, it's going to look in the folder called audio, and it's going to look for you.ogg, because it will have changed it here because it found this string. I hope you can understand what I'm saying. So now I'm going to click OK. Now it still says MP3 because although I made these changes, I didn't get out of this run right now. It's still running. It has not been refreshed since the change. So I click OK and I refresh it. So now that I've refreshed it after the run, when I click OK, the next box that comes up should say OGG. So I click OK, and yes, it in fact says OGG because now it recognized a string. It found a recognizable string in that browser conglomeration, and so at that point it did change the value of ext to OGG, and then and then it did this here in the initialization of the audio player. It's going to grab for you.ogg to be the audio source. This alert box is actually showing that fact right here. Alert ext, what is the value of ext? It's OGG. So that lets you know for sure that here it's OGG, because here it's giving you the value. What is it? Well, you see what it is. So now audio.loop equals true and audio.play. Now we're ensured that Opera is going to play an OGG file, just because we've used alert boxes in certain places to tell us what the value of this is. And also because we used this whole user agent thing, Navigator user agent thing, to even pull that information out, because we would have no other way to know what our user's browser is. So now when I click OK, now I know that Opera will actually play not only MP3, but it will also play OGG, and the slider works for both the MP3 and the OGG. Okay, so when I did this video before, I couldn't understand why. Oh, well, it's, I said if you're using Opera to change it to OGG, but like I showed you, when you use this, you get to see. When you use this user agent, Navigator user agent thing, you get to actually see what type of strings you need to look for in order to make this follow the command the way you expect it to. And so I don't think there's anything else I want to go over. I just know that I had that question in my mind as I did my previous video, and when I looked at this again, I'm like, wait a minute, all I got to do is check out what the value of agent is, and sure as crap, it was not looking for the whole word opera, it was looking for a shortened form. Alright, so with that, if you want to play around with this type of code, maybe you could make other things happen. Like depending on if it's the browser Opera, maybe you could make something else happen, like a different type of pop-up box or a different type of response to the user. This just forced the browser to pick a certain type of audio file between an MP3 or an OGG, but you can do different things, and just practice around with that just to get some practice under your belt with JavaScript.